line it up. Make sure you drop it the first time, like that. Okay, it's very important to drop it. Welcome back to the community, everybody, and thank y'all for being part of it. I do appreciate it. If you're interested in a t-shirt or stickers, check out the website going up the screen. It helps support the channel. Okay, today we're going to go ahead and do a brake shoe installation. In my last video, I did assembly of the beam, and I did ask if anybody wants to see brake shoe installation while I'm on this part of the car, let me know. Here I got a bunch of Facebook messages and a few in the comment section on the last video saying, yeah, please do a brake shoe installation. And I am going to do that today. However, I'm going to go over a couple other things while I'm doing it because I think it helps. It'll be about bleeding the brakes, how to check other things while you're doing it. Okay, so if the video is not too long, I'll go ahead and do brake shoe adjustment. If not, I'll put it in the following video because I don't like to make the videos too long for you folks. So let's get on it. I hope everybody's having a great day. Come on, let's get to work. Now, first thing is first. You're going to have to jack your car up, okay, and securely put jack stands under it, okay? Don't be sloppy about stuff like that because it could be your life. So jack it up properly. I'm sure you know where the points are where you can put it on jack stand safely. So here are the jacking points for a standard Beetle. Super Beetle would be a little bit different. But always take your time, jack it up slowly, and make sure to hit the points that you see in the photograph that I supplied. Do that first. I already have mine in the air, or I would do it for you, and show you, but mine's already set up. So we're going to go ahead and remove the drum first. I'm going to bring you in close so you don't have to look at me. Now, as you noticed from me doing the beam assembly video, the brake shoes, wheel cylinder, everything on here is new. However, I'm still going to go through the whole procedure so that you could see what's, what needs done on it. So let's get the drum off first, and then before we even change the brake shoes, I'm going to show you things that you need to do before you even just change the shoes. So let's take this off. First, now mine is already out of there. Your speedometer cable comes through there. So there will be a little clip on here like you see here. And you remove that clip because you don't want to break your speedometer cable because that holds it into here. So let me see if this will pop off. Okay, well, yes, it did. How about that? That was pretty easy. Okay, let me grab my socket. Give me 1 second. What I like to do, and you're not going to be able to see it real well because I'm trying to keep you close up to this, is I like to put a towel down. A crappy towel, it don't matter. And we don't want to get into the towel thing again. I got in trouble for that. Let me grab a towel here. And
that's why I had to get new bath towels. Because you keep taking them and bring them up the garage, and you said, oh, I don't know where they went.
But we want to go ahead and put a towel down to set your bearings on and things of that nature so that you don't end up with dirt in them. First, we're going to start out with a 6mm, and that's what this Allen head is. So you're going to take, we're on the driver's side, but I'm sure you possibly know that already. You loosen that up, do it a little bit more. Now we will take a crescent wrench, or, I'm sure you can find a wrench that fits this. Now remember, we are on the driver's side, so this is going to spin the opposite rotation to loosen it. Normally on a regular nuts and bolts, you turn clockwise to tighten. On this, you will turn clockwise to loosen it. It's reverse thread. Now, when you go over to the passenger side, then it goes back to righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, you know the deal. So we're going to take this off, and we're going to pull the drum slightly, just to get the bearing to push out, okay? And you remove your bearing and your washer, put them on your clean towel, so to speak. Then we're going to remove the drum. Sometimes the seal and the bearing will end up staying on here, and you'll have to just slide them off. Not a big deal. So First thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and remove the brake shoes. I'm going to show you a few things to check before we go ahead and swap over. I'll be putting the same ones back on. This is just for entertainment, basically, and learning. So we're going to go ahead and remove the brake shoes next, and then we're going to start going over things that you need to know. Now, there are two different ways that you can do this. Now, you can either remove your caps and springs and tilt the brake shoes, unhook, and pull down. Or you can go ahead and remove your springs and then remove your cups. I personally like removing the cups first, and you'll see why. Now, you can take a pair of dikes or whatever and take these off, but they're a little bit of a pain to do. So if you don't got one of these, get them. This one's from, oh geez, the mid-70s. It was my dad's. So anyhow, oh, it's a Craftsman. I wonder if I'll replace it for me. You can go ahead and use a pair of pliers, you know, if you need to. So take your finger, hold the back of the pin like you see here, so it doesn't spin. And as you can tell, there's a cup here, and you can see the notches in it. Now, you want to turn that a little bit to release it. That's what it looks like. And the pin looks like that on the end. So I'm sure a lot of you know this. Maybe you're watching this because you're bored today, or maybe you're new to this. Now, before anybody starts crying, it is a good idea to switch to disc brakes if you have the money. But not everybody does, and some people just may not care to. So if you can switch to disc brakes, I mean, I did a disc brake conversion video. I'll be doing another one with this. And it's really not that hard to do, and it does better braking. But if you're staying factory, there's nothing wrong with that. So what we're going to do here is see how the springs are loose now, like that, okay? They're still secured, but they're still in there. You can lift up, and off comes the brake shoes. So that makes it really easy to do it that way. That's the way I do it, okay? So we're going to get into the next thing now that was really, really important. What you have here is your brake adjusters. Now that's what adjusts the shoe up tighter against the drum, so your pedal isn't sitting on the floor. Your brake pedal will be nice and firm. So we're going to take these apart. Now you're going to go ahead and slide these out. Now, if they don't slide out, and they've been in there for 358 years, I don't know where I came up with that number, you're going to go ahead and spray PB Blast in here, okay? And make sure to soak the threads here and down around here. And take your time. If you have to, you can put a little bit of heat here to lodge it loose, okay? But don't act goofy and start a fire in your garage, you know what I mean? I use MAP gas is what I use. And you'll get these out. Just be patient. You can even take a pair of pliers and put them on the star and turn it back and forth while you're pulling it out. So you're going to remove both of these. And it's the same on both sides. And one thing you really do want to do, and I'm throwing a lot at you right now, but you can at least watch the video, slow down, come back to it, jump up and down. You want to take a wire brush or something small and get it inside of here. And you want to clean that up, and then you'll be putting anti-seize in it. But make sure you clean that little valley out, or hole, whatever you want to call it. Clean it out really, really well, okay, so they spin freely. So we've got those apart. Now, here is what you're going to do. Next, what I would do, if it's me, and I like doing this, I like to wipe all the grease off. Okay, now I don't have to wipe every little ounce of mine off because I just had this apart. But you want to wipe all of it off and check and see, do you have any little burrs anywhere? Is there any marks, any gashes in here, you know, where maybe the bearing was hanging up or something? Make sure whoops, a little bit of lint there. Make sure to check the shaft and make sure it's nice and smooth. If you have to, you can always take like fine grade emery cloth and take a strip and just go like that with it where you need to, and it'll smooth this back out. But don't take a bunch of material off of here because that's where the bearing, everything sits, and the seal. The next thing you're going to do is take a look at your wheel cylinder and see, is there any dampness around your wheel cylinder? Because if there is, now's the time to address it. If there's a little dampness around it where it has a very mild seepage, we'll say, because if you did have a big leak, your pedal would be going to the floor. However, you want to catch things in advance. Don't wait for them to happen. You know, you're on your way to a car show, and the next thing you know, you lose your brakes. So take advantage of the situation. While your brake shoes are apart and everything is off, look around here. You know, look for seepage. See if you see any seepage anywhere. If you do, change the wheel cylinder. It's not hard to do. If you do have to change your wheel cylinder, okay, mine are cut because I'm putting new hoses on, you will just go ahead and take your hose loose, put a little PB blast on there, take the hose loose, the fitting, and then you only have one bolt right there, 13 millimeter, and that will go ahead and remove the wheel cylinder. Another thing to know, okay, so say the wheel cylinder is removed, but you don't have to remove it to do what I'm going to tell you. You want to wire wheel and clean this backing plate up, okay? Mine has little pock marks in it, or what they're called, because I wasn't going to take and have it sandblasted, but I did wire wheel all this and paint it so it was nice and clean. And make sure with here and here, there's spots that the brake shoe rides on. You want to make sure they're wire wheeled and really clean so that the brake shoe can smoothly go in and out as need be, or move back and forth. Now, to address a comment that was put in during the beam assembly, somebody had said, I thought the wheel cylinder was supposed to be at 12 o'clock. And then somebody else posted under him and said, that's how I always do mine. I don't know why that was said, because on the back, the wheel cylinder, I believe, is at 12 o'clock without me looking. This has 3 bolts, okay? It can only go on one way. That's it, one way. On your driver's side, the wheel cylinder is at 3 o'clock. On the passenger side, your wheel cylinder is at 9 o'clock. So to address that comment, no, your wheel cylinder is not at 12 o'clock. And if somebody was doing it that way, I have no idea how you did it, because it's completely impossible without making up your own parts and machining stuff. So I wanted to address that from the comments. Once in a while I'll see a comment and I do address it, but that was one that needed addressed because I didn't want the one person wondering why his wheel cylinder was not sitting at 12 o'clock and why mine wasn't. So what we have here is our adjusters. These are very important maintenance while they're apart, because if you don't and you put everything back together and this doesn't spin to adjust the brakes, you're going to have to take it all back apart again. So I'll show you it up close here. These are what they look like, and obviously this one on threads. Let me take it out. I'll probably drop it. I know I'm going to. Okay, so this sits inside backing plate. I call it the nub, and of course that spins in. You want to wire wheel all of this and the threads, spray some cleaner through here and clean it up so this spins like this, just with ease. Wire wheel that clean, because you're going to want to put some anti-seize on it, because when we put it in, it's going to move very easily, but I'll show you what holds it in place so they don't de-adjust. What you're going to want to get is anti-seize by Permatex, and that will keep it from seizing up ever again. Well, under normal circumstances. After you have wire wheeled these, you're going to put some anti-seize around this, okay? And then on the threaded area. Now I've already done this, but I'll put a little bit more and we'll put it back in. Now this is on the backing plate. Your nub here, that's where your adjusters go in. Do you see these little clips? These clips are very important. It keeps the star from turning and the brakes de-adjusting. So when you're going down the road, your brakes don't de-adjust every time you push the pedal, or incidentally, they just do, okay? You want to make sure them clips are on there. If you're missing any of these and your backing plate is in good shape like mine, it's nice and solid, you can put new ones on. They sell just the clips, and you can tack weld them in place, or to be honest with you, you can wire wheel and clean the crap out of it. Take your new clip, put some JB weld in there, and clamp it with a C-clamp or whatever you have. And truthfully, I like to leave it clamped like that overnight so that they are good and attached, you know what I mean? So that's what you want to do with them. That's very, very important. Now, what we are going to do is I took a little bit of anti-seize, put it on my finger, smeared it around. Now, I already did the threaded part. That's why they're moving so smooth. I already anti-seized those. So they're moving nice and smooth already. I'm not going to overdo it. And you're going to just pop it in. See how easy? I didn't have it lined up. So you're going to go ahead and just pop it in place and put it all the way in just until you get the brake shoes on to adjust them. So let me do the other one. We're going to put that in, and you'll feel it click where it goes into the clip there. I'm going to wind this in. Now, one thing you're going to notice, I'm going to bring you in a little tight here so you can see. Look at the adjuster screw is what I call it. Now look at this, the distance on this. Okay, let me get a pointer. Look at the distance here on this. Now when you turn it around, see how there's minimal distance here. Are you seeing what I'm talking about? See how right there is thicker and that is thinner, and that is angled inside of here. So when you put the brake shoe on, you got to make sure that is angled the proper way, and I'll show you when I get into that part. If not, the brake shoe is not going to sit properly if that's not set right. Now that we have gone that far, you're going to go ahead and you're going to take some anti-seize and put a little right here, a little right there. Not going to hurt anything. And a little right here. Let me do the bottoms. We'll go over that real quick. I'll just explain the situation. Oops, I meant to do there. And a little right there. What happens is your brake shoe has to slide freely or it's not going to work. Because when your brake shoe is on in place, when you push your brake, the master cylinder, the wheel cylinder expands, which engages the brake shoe against the drum and stops the car. Hopefully, huh? So, if you don't have these spots lubricated and it gets a little rust, the brake's not going to move. So you want them spots lubricated with some anti-seize, or I like Seal Glide too. And you can put that on there and your brake shoe will keep moving smooth like it's supposed to. So make sure, because that is very, very important. I'll show you about this adjuster right now. So our brake shoe is in position right now. If I was to turn this, and I'll turn it right now and show you, as you can see, the thinner side is facing this way. So if I was to turn it like this, it puts the angle like that. So let's put this on and see how it's sitting. See how it's like, I can't explain to you, but it's actually sitting much nicer. If I was to spin it around, then the brake shoe doesn't want to sit down in properly. So this thinner side that you see here, or thicker side here, will be like that. And then the brake shoe sits nice and even. So that's what you do with that. I hope that made sense to you, hopefully. Now what we are going to do, putting the brake shoes on is not the last scenario because we got to check the bearings. But we will go ahead and put our springs on our brake shoes. Now verify that everything is spinning freely so that you don't have to take it back apart. So you're going to go ahead now, you're going to set your brake shoe in there. So you're going to set it in the slots, and then you're going to, I got to get up a minute here. Oh. Set that in there. I hope I'm not in your way. Like that. Now they're going to, oh, too far. They're going to lean a little bit, which is fine. Now it's time to put your little springs and cups back on. You can buy a new brake kit, you know, with new springs. Mine are new, obviously. So you're going to take your pin, you're going to put it through the back hole and right through the brake shoe. If you do it this way, it's easier because if you put these shoes on the backing plate and you're trying to stretch these springs that have a strange hook on the end, you're going to have a heck of a time. So we're going to take our spring with our cup in it, line it up, make sure you drop it the first time, like that. Okay, it's very important to drop it. And like I said, you can use pliers so you can see better, and I'll bring you in close in a second. You're going to put this on and twist it. So you want everything to be lined up. And once you put this spring in there and you turn the cup, it locks it into place. So that should make sense to you. You do what you want, but what I would recommend is changing them on both sides then. Because if the one's got a little bit of seepage and it's crusty looking, I would go ahead and I would change both of them. Trust me, it'll be worth your while. So what we have here now is this is all back together, okay? Keep them adjusters pulled in close so that the shoes are not hitting the drum. The next thing you want to do, and we'll go over to the bench here. Now something you want to do here is check your drum inside. See, in fact, if it's smooth inside. Does it need cut? Usually there's a little room on these, you know, where you can cut, but make sure you measure first, and we won't get into that because that's another video, but make sure they're smooth inside because if not, you're going to chew up your new brakes, okay? You're going to gently pull your sill off of the back. It's just with the screwdriver, it pops up and pull your bearing out. Now, as you can see here, I'll show you a couple of my older videos where I tended to that part specifically. You can take and change the bearings if they're bad, if they feel gritty or they're in bad condition. Change your inner and outer bearings. They're not that expensive. I'm not telling you to do it if there's nothing wrong with them. Don't just throw money away. But if they're bad, go ahead and put new bearings in. But you have to replace the races. And I'll just do a brief video on here. I'll show you real quick about changing the races. There's little slots here, one on each side. And that's where you can put your punch in to knock the bearing out. Let me see if I can bring you up here to see it. See that little slot right in here? Right there. See that slot? There's one on each side. And that's where you can get your punch through to hit the race out. It'll knock the race out of there, putting a punch in there. You'll see it. And go to the other side of it. I was hitting the bench. It just flew. That's how you get the races out. There's the new bearings, and of course there's your race. The race is gonna go, remember, you have a bevel. I know audience know this, I don't know why I'm filming it, and then your bearing sits in there, blah, blah. But this part goes down inside, okay? Made in Vietnam. Wow. Okay, so put that in there like that. 36 millimeter socket fits that pretty good, enough to get it started. I don't know if you guys are going to bounce or not. And new race. There's dirt in there still. That's seated. Make sure, you'll see a lip that it sits on in there. Make sure you pound it down far enough so it's seated, because if not, you're going to have an issue. Now, that was an older video. Filming wasn't as good done for me. I apologize, but that shows you knocking the races out and putting a new race in. So what you're going to do then is pack the bearings just like I did here last week. As you know, we got to pack some grease. We're going to put the drums on and torque them properly. I'm going to pack these by hand. They do sell, I'll see if I can find it. And you put this in there, push down, and the grease comes up through the bearings. But I pretty much just do them by hand. I've always done them that way, so why change now? You want to get it up inside of here, okay? So you want to go like that with the grease to get it up in. And you'll see it. You'll see it coming out the bearings, needle bearings, whatever you want to call them. So they're definitely not ball bearings. Okay, let me speed this up a minute. Now make sure, and you already know this, but I'm going to say it anyhow, you get any grease in that drum, make sure you clean it out. Use some brake clean or something. I only got some right here. Not a big deal. Wipe this off real pretty. And they're cheap. Buy yourself a new set of seals for the back. Oh, my rubber mallet. I use my plastic hammer. Okay, is grease up the outer bearing. So I'll speed this up real quick. That way this is done. And once you pack them, you put them in with the new races, put a new seal on if needed, if your seal's in bad shape. And then we're going to go ahead, after all that is said and done, and we're going to go ahead, let's put the drum back on because we got to torque it properly. What you are going to do next is put some grease on the shaft here. Smear it around. You want to keep everything moving very nicely. I'm sure everybody does this a little different too. So do which way you were taught or which you feel is right. I'm going to actually be putting disc brakes on this, but I figured before I take this all off of here, this was a good time to do a video for, you know, this specific thing, factory drums. Now I do like to mostly put a little bit more in the back, but I'm just putting this together to show you. So now that we have our new bearings and everything's packed and ready, we're going to go ahead and set the drum into place. What I like to do also, before I put the nut on, so to speak, and the bearing, I like to put, and I forgot before I slid it on that far, I like to smear a little bit of grease inside the race. You're not going to hurt anything. It likes grease. So I do like to put some on there. So now we'll push it back on. Now I already packed the bearing, as you know, so I'm going to just put a little bit more around the outside. Come on, get on there. There we go. What you can do, and this will not hurt anything, is take and pack a little bit of grease inside of here. It isn't going to hurt anything. I'm going to wipe it off the threads though. But I like to push a little bit in there for the bearings. If you don't like it, don't look. That's the way I like doing it. Because once the grease gets hot, it does break down. At least certain greases. Everybody's also critical of everything. We're going to wipe this off. Just the threads. Get your threads cleaned up. Now, as you can see, there is grease packed inside of there. Now you're going to take your funky nut, oops, this way. And remember, this is opposite. So you're not going to turn it clockwise. You got to turn it counterclockwise. And you're going to go ahead. Now don't tighten it, tighten it. Don't skip through this part of the video, please. This is very important. Take your crescent wrench or your proper sized wrench for whatever you want to do. Okay, now this spins freely, as you can see. That was my wrench you hear rubbing on it. Take it, give it. Now, when you tighten it by hand, which I did, I can't turn it no more. Put this on and give it like just a little bit of a turn. Just enough to seat that bearing. That's all you got to do. You don't get on there and crank it real tight, because if you do that, you will burn them bearings up. So, and you can see a little bit of grease squirted out a little. Now, everybody does them different. Back up a little bit. I like to give it a spin, and then I like to go right back to where it was. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on though. I'm just going like that with my hand. Okay? And what it does is it seats the bearing in there. Just like that. So once you have done that, let me check something a minute here. There we go. That's just how I do them. Do them how you want. Take your 6mm, put it on here, and tighten it up, because that way it will keep it from loosening. That way that won't loosen up. All you're going to do then, you're going to put this on. You're going to give it some love taps with a rubber mallet. I don't have one near me. And you're going to go ahead and push your cable through from your speedometer. Once you put that through, put a clip on it and hold it in place. This isn't on all the way. I got to mess with this. I don't know why this is not fitting the drum. And this is an aftermarket drum, I believe, so that's probably why. But what I will do is take some memory and run it around the shaft so this pounds on properly. A lot of these aftermarket parts now are really poopy. So, but that's your brake installation. So let's recoup a couple of things. So that was your brake shoe installation video. And the reason I talked about the wheel cylinder is because a lot of times people just slam new brakes on and go on with life. 2 weeks later, the brake pedal goes to the floor. So what I advise is to check these things while it's apart. Then you don't have to jack the car up 50 times, you know, to redo things. If you do end up with any type of imperfections on your drum, go have them cut. You don't have to buy new drums if there's meat available on it. And they'll know. When you take it to get it cut, tell them what the drum's from. They should have the specs so they know the thickness of the drum. Okay, and they know if it can be cut or not. And don't let them BS you on it. Get your drums cut if need be, okay? And make sure you buy good quality shoes. Don't buy junk shoes. And more important, do not buy junk wheel cylinders, okay? Please don't do that. This is your braking system. I am going to be switching over to, I got to pull this beam back down because next week I'm starting on this body work here. I got to do this whole inner wheel, the other one, you know, the guide rails. I got to get on the body work. I'm going to do a drop spindle 0 offset so that don't kick the wheels out further like some of them do. And I'm going to do a disc brake video. So I'll do the spindle separately so you get the idea of the drop spindle, and then we'll go ahead and do a disc brake setup. Now I did one in the past, but I want to do one on this, and I can film better than I did a couple years ago. So I'll go ahead and do that for you. And another thing I am going to do, I'll slip it in as a quick video next week as an extra one. I'm going to do brake shoe adjustment, which is very, 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 I say very important. So I will be doing that next week as an additional video, because I'm going to do the body work, but I'm going to time lapse all that because I got to scrape all this old tar off. Enough about that. Let's close out for the day. Okay, that was this week's DIY, and if you're wondering why I jump around sometimes to certain things, it isn't a matter of what order they're in on the channel, because I make playlists up. It is a matter of while I'm near that object that I go ahead and do the DIY on it before the beams back off and I'm doing something else. I am going to do a brake adjustment video this coming week as an extra video, because I really need to desperately get on the body work, because once we get her painted, we're slamming everything together and going for a ride. I'm going to try to be on chat tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. I will post it on the community tab, and I will also post it in the club. So make sure you have joined that. And I opened a new VW Parts Classified up for air-cooled. Just like that. So make sure to join both of them, and check the website once in a while. There's always lots to see on there. And I thank you for being here. I'm considering doing something else pretty big soon that I think a lot of people will really like. I thank you for being here. I hope to see you on chat tonight. I will notify all of you through the community tab if I'm going to do that tonight, if I have time. And that's it. I hope everybody has had an amazing day. Keep your chin up. Everybody be happy. Ignore all the bad and ignore all the evil. Be nice. Be happy. Life's quick.